Good morning. Today is Thursday, October 2nd, 2025. I have to think about it sometimes. My name is Terry Morgan. We are here to practice Wudang Qigong, and we're here to talk a little bit, and I'm going to mix them both, about the foundations that go with Wudang Qigong. And I'm also going to talk about the principles and this underlying, best way to say it is foundation that go with Wudang Qigong. I beat up on the idea of not mixing and mushing. Don't make mush out of practice. Whatever you practice, don't make mush out of it. I'm going to get a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I'm going to get a little bit of this and a little bit of that. No. What you end up with is inconsistencies and a lack of foundation principles that you can apply to what you're doing. So, what are those foundation principles? Right? What are you talking about? What do we need to pay attention to? What art you practice, whatever art you practice, has a set of guidelines. It has a set of these foundation principles. What should you do in movement? What kinds of movement are you doing? They're different for different arts. They are. And there's different kinds of Qigong that do different things. So they're different movements. They're intended to work on particular areas of the body, which would be the same, but maybe in a different way, maybe with a different emphasis. Whatever that is, you have to pay attention to it. If you don't, you get mush. Now, we're going to start here with some movement in a second. This idea that you should pay attention to the principles. How do you know? How do you find out? If you're not if you don't ever go to class, right? You just learn on your own, but you don't have a teacher, you're at risk of missing things that the teacher would have been able to tell you are important. If you have a teacher and you don't listen to the teacher, well, right? Maybe you have a teacher and the teacher tells you things and you listen to the teacher assiduously, very carefully. And the teacher really doesn't know anything. But the teacher thinks of lots of things. So they talk about lots of things. But they really don't know anything. And as a student, you can't distinguish, right? You haven't learned how to distinguish. So you accept what the teacher is telling you. Another teacher says, "What are you doing?" And requires, doesn't ask, requires that attention. And as you practice, you discover that what you're being asked to do is to develop those foundation principles. All right, feet about shoulder width apart. Basic stretch, hands at your sides, wiggle the toes, wiggle the fingers, pull up through the body, hands circle to the front, back around to both sides, up along the center line, stretch out. Again, relax through the back, relax through the upper body, keep the shoulders down and open. Roll up, fingertips reach up, elbows drop down, wrists, hands return to your sides. We're going to work on set 3 of Wudang Qigong, Wild Goose Flying. This set, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing and all of the principles that go with this as we're practicing, right? So, up and lower. All right. That's the move. Now, how to do it? What are we paying attention to? These basic principles, right? As I'm moving, I didn't just move my arms up and put them down. I didn't. Up, down. Hey, put them up, drop them down. No. That's not what I did. It's not. The way that I move in this exercise is based on what I learned and the foundation principles for Wudang Qigong. It's not based on Yang style Tai Chi. It's not based on ballet. It's not based on, some widget, wonderful, magical. No. No. It's a set of 18 exercises. There's a book. I have the first edition of this too, by the way. I did the translation. The pictures are random. The pictures are of my teacher. The book has English and Chinese, so the original's preserved. Okay, and that matters when I talk about you haven't met this, or you've never seen this, or the lack of context for some of what we're doing. That is part of perception. That's part of the perspective. That's part of what comes through in understanding what we're doing. If we're paying attention to, again, I was talking about I'm not doing this, right? Not dancing. I'm not trying to just wiggle my arms around. I'm actually trying to extend through the back so that the whole body opens as my arms open. Notice my wrists, right? That distinction in the movement and the way that I use that movement to open the body is part of what we're doing with Wudang Qigong. It has a beneficial effect for all sorts of other exercises that we might do. But it's not all others. It's not all the other exercises that we might do, and all the other exercises that we might do are not Wudang Qigong. That's define the universe, right? As we're practicing this open and close is part of how we develop the breath. The external breath, which I refer to the function of the lungs, the breathing apparatus, all of the muscles and tendons that help to operate the lungs, as well as the respiratory system that gives us the ability to breathe. All of that comes into play with the external breath, right? That's oxygen, take it in, expel carbon dioxide, that breath. That's what I'm talking about with the external breath. The internal breath, the qi. What we talk about in Qigong, the internal energy, the internal circulation. It's hard to translate, but that's what we're talking about. So, with that in mind, there's 3 other books that I'm going to do show and tell with. I mentioned this one. This is the Yellow Emperor's Classic of Traditional Chinese Medicine. It's translated. It's something that is part of the canon in Qigong and in traditional Chinese medicine. It's absolutely part of traditional Chinese medicine. This is another book that I used. This is illustrated pressure points, acupuncture points, and channels and meridians. This channels. This is what we're talking about. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about lower Tantien, moving up the back through the Dumai, connecting here at the Rinzhong, and connecting down through the Renmai back to the lower Tantien. That small heavenly circle, the Renmai and the Dumai, are 2 of the major channels in the body according to traditional Chinese medicine. If we don't acknowledge the possibility, it's very difficult to practice. It's very difficult to practice. Now, we can say, oh, well, that's not Western medicine. That's traditional Chinese medicine. Yeah, that's true. And Western medicine doesn't know everything. It doesn't. Traditional Chinese medicine doesn't know everything either. All right? That concept is something that I use in my own practice, my own study. I don't know everything. These folks over here don't know everything. These folks over here don't know everything. But there may be something of value that I can learn. Maybe there is something that has 5,000 years of history. Yellow Emperor's book goes back about 5,000 years. That, to me, has value. That longevity, that within a particular culture, right, there is 5,000 years of history. It still exists. It's been recorded. And there are books that come from that time that offer an insight to our human condition that we still find valuable today. The Greeks and the Romans, the Europeans, the early Europeans that wrote books on philosophy, on medicine, we still have some of those too. They're not quite as old. And for myself, if I had, excuse me, if I had chosen perhaps a different study, a different language, I might have learned something from other ancient cultures that we still have. I studied classical Greek in college and learned quite a bit about what is different. 2,500 years ago. 25,000 years ago is a different. That's way different. 2,500 years ago. The world was different then, right? 4,000 years ago, very different, right? Those differences in perspective and the way that we look at the human condition, all of it, philosophically, medically, in terms of what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, what our expectations are, all of those change over time, and they change and are different based on where we are, the culture that we're in, and what the expectations are. Trying to put that in context. With Wudang Qigong, we have an art that originated in China. It did. It absolutely did. And the foundations for this art include, not limited to, include traditional Chinese medicine. This principle of circulation, the acupuncture points, the channels, the meridians, are all part of Wudang Qigong. Wudang Qigong asks us to pay attention to them. Not just settle everything in the lower dantian. No. Wudang Qigong says, no, you subdue that. And now you need to circulate that energy. Now you need to move it. That concept is something that I've found to be a bit unique to Wudang Qigong. Obviously, it's fundamental to work with traditional Chinese medicine in Qigong practice. What kind of Qigong? That quiet meditation where you're just focused on the lower dantian and quieting the mind and nothing else is there. That's not what we're doing. But that's a good practice. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not this practice. And if you try and merge, it's just this one, right? I'm not going to pay attention to what this actual exercise requires. I'm just going to do this one that I know, right? No. That's, again, this idea of paying attention to the foundation and the principles. Wudang Qigong is active. It's very active. Even when I'm standing here not moving that much physically, I'm internally, there's quite a bit going on. We pay attention to that. We want to cultivate that. All right, so small heavenly circle from the lower dantian, down, up the back, through the 3 gates, down the center, and return to the lower dantian. As you open the back, right, pay attention to opening through the lower gate, the Ming Men. Keep the shoulders down. Don't let this happen, right? Easy movement, fluid, open, and complete. Breathe in, palms up. Breathe out, press down, bend the knees. Open the back, open the hips, pull up through the waist, and open the arms. The whole body pulls up and sink, settle. The wrists lead down, open. And close. Hold the back straight. Pull up through the center. The arms are round as they come up. The wrists lead. This idea takes its shape from a large bird, wild goose, flying. Two more. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in, pull up the back, and breathe out, down the front. And breathe in one more time, palms up. And breathe out, hands pressed down on both sides. Pull up through the crown of the head, raise the heels and lower. Stay there, breathe in. And breathe out. I'm going to do this again with the idea that we want to open the wrist, this idea that the hand is the wingtip and it floats at the end of the arm is something that we want to use. That extension reaches out through the fingertips as the arms come down. The more we can extend through the arms, through both sides and both channels, to the navel, centers of the palm, and open through the whole body, especially the jaji here in the center of the back. As you're opening the arms, open that. That will help to increase the circulation of the chi up the back. And it gives us another mechanism to work on the breath. As the arms open, necessarily, the shoulders have to open, right? If you're reaching your arms out and you're extending your chest outward, everything opens up. That is what we want. The lungs open and close, and that natural connection with the movement to assist in what the lungs are doing, the mechanics of what the lungs are doing, helps to increase the depth of the external breath, helps to increase the capacity of the lungs, and it helps us extend the chi through the arms. One more time. Feet about shoulder width apart. Set of 6. Smile. Breathe in. And breathe out. Both hands up both sides. And down. Open. Open the back. Extend the arms. And breathe in. And breathe out. And breathe in. And breathe out. Breathe in. Pull up the back. And breathe out down the front. And breathe in. Open the jaji. Center of the back. Extend the arms. Open the lungs. Relax and breathe in. And breathe out. 2 more. Breathe in. And breathe out. And breathe in. Breathe out. Palms up, breathe in. Palms pressed down, breathe out. Pull up through the crown of the head, raise the heels and lower. Stay there, breathe in. Breathe out. Relax. I'm going to finish up for this morning. This exercise and the way that we do it is part of what we're doing with all of the sets in Wudang Qigong. We have another set that uses a similar type of movement, Alfegong, settling and rising and settling. It's actually Alfe, coming down, lowering. All right. Not that much different here than what we were just doing, except that we're going to go lower, right? And this opening here, we're going to use it in the next set. That progression is something that appears throughout Wudang Qigong. Each of the 18 exercises is progressively more difficult and asks us to do a little bit more with the internal work, that Neigong, Qigong, internal workmanship, Gongfu, that Neigong, in working within the context of this exercise, applying the principles that belong with this exercise, not importing something different, trying to focus on what we're doing here. We have the forms and methods that were handed down to Professor Liu, which he documented in his original book. Here we go. I knew I had it. I knew I had it. Okay, this is his original book. This is the original Wudang Qigong book. The current translation is what I got here. All right, that is where I started. Okay, his work. He talks about traditional Chinese medicine. He talks about using the channels and meridians. He talks about making sure that the body is well placed and well balanced. He talks a lot about the physical benefits of traditional practice, that the lungs are improved, the lung capacity is improved, that the whole body circulation is improved, that the joints and reflexes the responses are improved. All of these things are physical benefits that are documented. There's Western scientific documentation that shows that these benefits exist. And he talks about some of the philosophical underpinnings through traditional Chinese medicine and I'm going to say the mystique behind how we practice, what we practice. The notion that the names of the movements give us some insight into what we should be doing. Wild goose flying. There's not, right? That idea is pervasive in all of the arts that I've ever seen, especially the ones that come out of China. There's a connection to something in the natural world, and those forms take on the character of whatever that connection is. So for us, Wudang Qigong is active. We're actively trying to circulate the energy. We're moving. Things are moving inside as well as outside. We're paying attention to the dynamics of the movement, how the movement works, physics, geometry, all those things. We're paying attention to that, and we're paying attention to that circulation in specific places for each of the exercises, so that we can develop better overall circulation through the physical body, as well as through the channels and meridians that make up what we have in the energy body from traditional Chinese medicine. Thank you for being here this morning. I appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow with the more advanced stuff. Bye.